And welcome back to Inside IUE Sports, presented by the Richmond Furniture Gallery. We continue meeting another new coach here in the IU East athletics family, joined by Abby Niekamp, the new full-time volleyball coach. So, Abby, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Say you're a week into the job full-time. You were officially named on March 14th. Before we get into some of your plans for the Red Wolf program, we'll also take a trip down memory lane, your history as a volleyball player. So, similar question I asked John, if you could talk a bit about what you remember about how you first became interested in volleyball and what got you hooked, what made volleyball your sport.
Okay, well, I started playing volleyball in 7th grade. Like most kids, I was trying out every sport that I could. My dad actually wanted me to be a big basketball player, but basketball involved too much running, so I stuck with volleyball. Kind of fell in love with the sport. Hadn't had any contact with the sport before that, but it kind of got me hooked, and I was a natural athlete at that point, and it kind of came naturally to me, so I stuck with it.
Okay. You're from Salina, Ohio, played at Marion Local High School. Tell us about your high school career. I know a lot of victories as well as your club playing days. Some of the best highlights both on and off the court you remember from your high school days.
Definitely my biggest highlight from playing at Marion was the fact that we won the state championship my senior year, which was the first in the school's history. So that was a really cool accomplishment for us. And I know the group of girls that I was with my senior year, we had been talking about it since 7th grade, that we wanted to be that team that did it. So it was a really cool accomplishment to be able to do it.
Okay. Then on to your college career. You played some very high-level programs. Started out 1 year at Florida State. After the winter we just had, I'm jealous that you got to spend time in Florida. And then the last 3 years, university at Buffalo, obviously in Buffalo, New York. So tell us a little bit about your college career, both at Florida State and at Buffalo.
Okay, yeah, I started out at Florida State. I was recruited down there, committed before the summer of my junior year. So I went down there for a year. It wasn't quite the fit. You always hope that the school is the right fit for you, and it didn't work out the best for me, and I wanted to be a little bit closer to home, so I transferred to Buffalo. Spent 3 years there, was captain junior and senior year. My biggest highlight from there was my junior year. We played Ohio University, and they're a huge rival in the MAC for us, and we ended up beating them on our home court in 5, and it was a really tough match for us, but it was a really cool experience to be able to beat them for the first time in about 11 years. And the second in the school's history. So that was my biggest highlight from Buffalo.
Okay, and you were an all-conference player as well, so I want to make sure get that in there. You're too modest to say so yourself. So that's your playing career in a nutshell. At a certain point, you obviously became interested in the coaching side of things. At what point do you remember first thinking that coaching might be a path that you might want to follow to stay with volleyball?
I was so focused on volleyball whenever I played. It was my biggest passion. I loved it. I wanted to be around it all the time. So it was actually in my junior year, we had a freshman come in. She played the same position as me, and I kind of took her under my wing and I mentored her, and she thanks me to this day for having a big impact on how she got through her freshman year. She was just that little scared freshman, and I was able to help her through it, and I realized that I gave her all the knowledge that I could to be able to get through that first year for her that was a really tough transition year for her. And that's when it kind of hit me that that's what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be mentoring those young athletes that I could have such an impact on.
Then, if I'm remembering your resume right, kind of the first official coaching stop for you was back at your high school, helped a very successful program there. That experience, just what were the biggest differences you started to notice from the playing side of the game to the coaching side of the game?
Well, it was really interesting for me because the coach that I was under was the coach that I played for in high school. And she was a huge mentor whenever I played for her. And to see her side of the coaching aspect instead of seeing it as a player was a huge wake-up call for me. She had so much composure whenever she coached, and she was able to downplay our losses and downplay the so-called drama that comes with any team sport, and kind of keep everybody level-headed, which I thought was a huge point for her to make. And I was really excited to see that part of the coaching side of it.
Okay. That brings us up to when you started to become part of the IU East program. You started last year as an assistant. In October, became the interim coach. You've been running the program since October until being officially named head coach this month. Thinking back to last summer, just what initially interested you in coming to IU East in general?
Well, after college, I had moved back home to Salina, Ohio, where my parents are. I had been away from my family for way too long, so I decided to move back home, and I was looking at, college coaching jobs and positions around here, and Richmond is about an hour away from where I grew up, and so I started looking into the program, and they've had a lot of success here, and I was like, I want to be a part of that program, so I applied and got the position, and that's where it all started.
And then I mentioned you've been the interim coach and now the full-time coach since October. People might think, well, wait, the season ends in November. What is there to do? There's a lot to do between scheduling and running the off-season workouts, and you've also been hitting the recruiting trail hard. Talk about some of the things that you've gotten to kind of learn on the fly as essentially the head coach since October during this off-season.
Well, my girls went home for Christmas break, and they came back, and we I wanted to get them in the gym right away. We have a lot of work to do. So I laid out a workout program for them to do. So they're lifting and practicing nearly every day, making great improvements. I'm really proud of them. And I've been out about every other weekend this spring trying to recruit and get some good recruits in for a solid program next year.
Okay. And that kind of leads into my next question. And what are your goals for the IU East program? And I might divide that into two questions. Not only your goals immediately for next year, but also looking a few years down the line, just your overall goals, not only next year, but then looking far into the future for IU East.
Well, this program has a great foundation already. They've had such success in the past. I think next season we have no reason not to be contending for the conference championship once again. It kind of seems like the roadblock with this program has been not getting past that opening round of nationals. So I see that as a goal down the road, maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, to be able to move past and make it to the final side at nationals.
Talk about what do you consider your strengths as a coach? You were obviously a front row player in college. I'm sure you've got tons of experience all around the game, but what do you consider your strengths as a coach and how you can relate that to the players here?
I think my biggest strength is that I can relate to my players in general, and I've been able to create such strong relationships with the girls that I already have on the team, to be able to move forward with that and to be able to influence them not only on the court but outside the court, academically and with their character and everything else. So really being able to relate to my players as well as the experience that I've had in the past.
Okay. And I got 4 players officially signed for next year. We're going to take a look at some of their photos on the screen here. I'd like you to talk a little bit about the contributions you expect each of them to make. First off, Logan Beeson. She is a setter, I believe, from Avon. If you could tell us a little bit about Logan and the contributions you expect her to make.
Logan kind of came to us after Madison Yoder signed, which is, I assume we'll talk about her in a second. They were great friends in club and in high school, and Logan wasn't really sure if she was going to play college volleyball, and I took a look at her and I was like, I think that you can really contribute to us. So she's going to be a setter on the team next year with Caitlin Kelly, and those two will be kind of duking it out for that starting setter's position next year.
And we are going alphabetically, so next up is Caitlin Kelly out of Franklin High School in Franklin, Indiana. So talk a little bit, obviously another setter, but how Caitlin has been connected or recruited by IU East for a few years, and you're able to make that official. Talk about the contributions you expect from Caitlin in the next few years.
I think Caitlin's going to be a quiet leader on our team. She is kind of the calm in the craziness that is our team. We have a lot of big personalities on the team, and I think she's going to balance out the team really well in that setter's position.
Okay. Then continuing alphabetically, this one, Maddie Murphy is the next one I'm going to have you talk about. She was already a freshman here at IU East, was a teammate of one of the current Red Wolves in high school, and has decided to come aboard for next year. So tell us the things you're looking for out of Maddie Murphy.
Maddie played all the way around in high school. I see her more as a DS because of her height, and I think she has a lot of potential in the DS position and fighting for the ball off the floor for next year.
Okay. And last, certainly not least, Madison Yoder out of also on the west side of Indianapolis, Ben Davis. Talk a bit about the contributions you expect from Madison.
Madison is a defensive specialist as well, and she has a lot of fire and a lot of energy on the court. She's very scrappy, and I see her keeping the ball off the floor.
Okay. And speaking of recruiting, a final question I've got for you, just for any potential recruits who might be watching today, just your message to those potential recruits for why they should want to come to IU East and be part of the program that you're planning on building.
This program has had a great history, and we're on the rise, so we can only go up from here.
All right. So, Abby, thank you so much for joining this week. Best of luck moving forward as the official head coach of the Red Wolves.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with a current head coach here at IU East. We'll talk a little bit about men's tennis when we come back on Inside IU East Sports, presented by the Richmond Furniture Gallery.